The Balsam Mountain Inn, just off the Blue Ridge Parkway in western North Carolina, is one of my favorite places to visit. Each month, owner Merrily Teasley brings together gifted musicians for an event known as Songwriters in the Round. It also gives me an opportunity to sit back and have a relaxed conversation with those same artists here at this beautiful old inn. Today, a trio of performers have traveled here together, each with an incredible story of their own personal journey. Jerry Salley is probably best known as a songwriter, with over 300 songs recorded to date. His work has been performed by such prestigious artists as Reba McEntire, Paisley, Loretta Lynn, and Toby Keith.
My first appearance on the Grand Old Opry was actually in 1984, if you can believe that. To be honest with you, I got to thinking too much about where I was standing and who else had stood on that piece of wood. And man, I had dry mouth so bad I didn't know if I was even going to be able to sing. And I made it through, got a great crowd response, and they called me back out. One other time I was on the Opry with Roy Acuff, and he had me there one time, and we actually had done 2 songs we had rehearsed. And he said, son, these people like you pretty good. He said, could you do one more song for these folks? And I looked at him, and I didn't miss a beat. I said, Mr. Acuff, I'll sing all night out here if you'll let me.
Does anybody know you're here?
Carl Jackson's famous song, Lonesome Dove, co-written with fellow performer Larry Cordle, has been recorded by Ricky Skaggs and Trisha Yearwood, among others.
Glen was a hero of mine. I loved his playing, I loved his singing. My classmates would not really kid me about it, but say things to me in a loving way. You know, it's like, hey, see you on Glen Campbell one day, because they all were very familiar with the show. And
after high school, Carl moved up to Ohio to perform with some friends. While there, he attended a performance by Glen Campbell at the State Fair.
After the show, we're passing by the backstage area. I glanced over and I see Larry McNeely standing backstage. And I walked over and stuck out my hand and I just said, hey Larry, my name's Carl Jackson. I just wanted to tell you that I really enjoyed the show. And he said, Carl Jackson, what are you doing here, man? He said, I love your playing. And I didn't know he knew me. I mean, we had both played the Opry, but we had never met. Well, why don't you come by? Let's do some picking. Played a few things together a little bit, but then he started asking me to play things. Next thing I know, I mean, just out of the clear blue, he looks over at me and goes, would you like to have this job?
Wow.
Like,
and how old were you then?
I was 18. I was almost soon to be 19. And he walks me over to Glen's trailer, and I walk in, and there sits my hero, Glen, you know. So you play banjo? I think that's one of the first things he said. I said, yeah, I play. Anyway, then he looks over and he said, do you play guitar? And I remember my answer was, I play a little bit. I said, okay, well, play something for me. He gives me a guitar, you know. So I play a few things. And the next question he asked me, he says, well, how much would you like to make? And I said, well, how about $1 million, you know? And he just kind of grinned and he said, you go home and get your stuff together and you're hired. You got the job. Wow. So all the things the kids had written in the annual, you know, they came true.
The wildest dreams, though, you weren't expecting anything like that.
No, I had no idea.
Son, I'm home safe.
Larry Cordle was born in eastern Kentucky. His song, Murder on Music Row, was made famous in a recording by George Strait and Alan Jackson. In addition, Cordle has written songs for such notable artists as Garth Brooks, Ricky Skaggs, Loretta Lynn, Trisha Yearwood, and many more.
One of my close neighbors growing up was a fellow named Ricky Skaggs. Mm-hmm. I had only experimented around and written a few songs. And I asked him one weekend if he would listen to some of it. I hated to say it, but would you listen to some of these things? And he told me, he said, man, these are good, you know. You know, I like to have some of these.
I'm not really gone.
Another 3 or 4 years went by, you know, before that really came down. And he handed me a cassette tape. I think it was Highway 40 Blues.
Wow.
And I said, well, what does that mean? He said, well, it's going to be on this album. So I'm coming up Richmond Road there one day going to rehearsal, and I hear this thing on the radio. You know, I pull over to the side of the road to make sure, you know, yeah, that's it. And I just couldn't get over it, you know, that I would have a song that was on the radio.
What's different about, you know, a smaller room with music in the round and comparing to a larger performance? Well, it's just a more intimate experience. But when you have a large crowd and it's outdoors, it's just not quite it's a whole different experience when you get a chance to let us tell the stories. It's almost like being in someone's living room.
You can see the expressions on people's faces, and you can see a song as it touches them.
Still love singing.
On a production level, I've learned a lot from Carl on, you know, sonically what to do and how to do it.
To be with those guys, they're great people. I mean, they're family, they're brothers.
Songwriters in the Round always proves to be a rich and intimate experience for both the performers and the audience. It's a living testament to the power of music and its magical ability to bring us all together.